You had spoken previously about essential skills of selling, and I know from having done some research on your work, 4 categories. There's personal, relational, business, and growth. The relational category drew my interest right away because I think that's something that's, you had said, it's probably the most important to the success of a salesperson's career. In my own experiences and things I've observed over the years, that can sometimes lead people in sales to be selling internally when there may be a better way to build relationships and communicate with one's own coworkers. Tell me about how that factors in with sales culture.
Well, that's a broad question. So relational skills are absolutely critical. So we could always make the case, and we've known for decades, and there's been so much research to validate that we sell by building relationships. But what we miss, I believe, is that we need to build the relationships constantly internally as well, which is not just selling somebody internally, but it's advocating for them as well. It's going to them because I know what you do and your contribution to the company, not what your title tells me you do. Because I could sit in a room of 15 IT directors, right? They all have the same title, but they all do something very, very different. Well, I'm going to need to engage them at different times to help the customer ultimately say yes. If I don't have a relationship there where I'm selling them, if you will, on the value of helping me help the customer say yes, I'm not going to get the deal and the company's not going to grow. So the other part of essential selling skills, as you point out, when I wrote that white paper, that special report, it really was about identifying the skills that we all have as human beings, that we all do day in and day out, that are selling skills. Humility, ego control. There's a list of a number of them, as you know. And relationship skills, we all build relationships day in and day out. So one of my favorite sayings when I do my keynotes is, don't do anything different, think differently about what you do, and you'll leverage the relationships differently in the organization because you're helping now people see how they impact the customer.
There's another point about that I wanted to ask you, which is, we've discussed that in terms of how the salesperson handles other people in the organization. That issue of knowledge and understanding how everyone contributes, what are your opinions of how that can work the other way? How critical is it for someone in IT or someone in marketing or someone in the production aspect of a business to understand the sales process? Because I think there's a bit of a lack of knowledge about just what goes into the attainment of a sale.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Selling hasn't changed. I mean, there are the basic steps of selling, and at the end of the day, if you will, bad sales cliche, but at the end of the day, sales is pretty much what it is. There are the steps that go into it. What's so interesting about building sales culture is that we do 2 things. We first of all show people what those steps are, and when we show them and we say, we're doing discovery, we're doing qualification, and you do these things every single day and don't realize it. And then people sort of sit back and they go, you're right. Therefore, I guess I'm in sales. Well, they're not doing it to the customer, they're doing it to each other. They're selling each other day in and day out on, I need you to help me with the project, I need budget, I need your approval, I need you to approve my case, I'd like you to be part of my business case. So when all is said and done, I can show people how the sales process works, and then what they're going to do is come to the logical conclusion in a very cool, uplifting way that they're already doing it day in and day out. They're already playing in a sales conversation. It just may not be as we think of the sales conversation.
I think that's what made your work so intriguing to me. Was there have been numerous books in the past written about bridging silos or breaking down silos in organizations and sort of leveling the playing field amongst people in a company. But your work is unique in that it takes the approach of it from a sales perspective. Instead of looking to bridge places where companies are sitting as islands, you're attempting to do so to actually get to the business goal.
That's right.
But also not ignoring the fact that there is a purpose for it, for people to understand the sort of connectedness of the organization.
Well, you've said it beautifully. Again, my passionate belief is the following. You could have the greatest set of, we'll say, marketing professionals in the world, but if they don't know how what they do affects the rest of the company, then they're really not that good. You see, if they're sitting in a silo and they're encouraged to stay in a silo and everybody else is the enemy, if the sales organization is the enemy, well, then you're really not going to have a successful company. What you're going to have in that particular case of this marketing department are products built and developed in a vacuum without the input of the sales organization. And quite frankly, if you look at any healthy business product development map, I'll just use that as an example, everybody's playing a role. The person who's buying the raw materials to produce the product, the accountant who's analyzing the price structures, the lawyers who are saying we can sell it under this way, but we can't sell it this way. The salespeople are saying, I can sell this, right? So silos kill companies, and I am not an organizational development guy in the classic sense. So to me, sales culture is really a pretty simple concept. You either play in the conversation or you don't. You're either in a mediocre company or you're in a growth company.